Hey guys, Dylan here with Northern Eclipse Outdoors, and we're going to be putting on the 3.8 liter IMS fuel tank for my 2021 KLX300. Got the tank here. I did have the 2.7 gallon tank installed already, but I'm not quite happy with the range it gives me, so I figured I'd just buy the bigger tank and try and sell this one used on Marketplace. So we're gonna start doing this now. I pretty much got a full tank, so I'm gonna have to dump it into this jerry can here. So we'll start pulling it off, and yeah, shouldn't be too bad. Another quick note about this tank: I waited about 2 years for the tank to come out, and then finally, nothing was coming out that was bigger than the 2.7. So I just bit the bullet, got the 2.7 in the meantime, and yeah, I did a couple trips with that, and it was good. It got me by, but I still had to carry extra fuel, and I'm thinking with the 3.8, I shouldn't need to carry any extra fuel for most of the trips that I do. So yeah, this should be a perfect setup for me. The 2.7 swap was really easy as well. Like, this doesn't take very much time. It shouldn't be too hard. With like the average skill level, you can do it in a couple hours max. So yeah, I'll show you what we're working with here. So I've got a rear rack on mine, so I'm just gonna loosen off these bolts to get the seat off, and I can usually just pull this out of the way enough to get this the seat up, as there's just a couple metal tabs in between there, and then we'll have to pull off the plastics. So yeah, you got bolt there, one here, side plastics come off, and then there's just two little side bolts under here for the fuel tank, one on each side. And then you'll see when we get the seat off, there's one more bolt right underneath that you got to pull off, and then the tank should come out, and then you'll just be dealing with your hoses. It's not too bad. These guys here are 6 mil. These ones here are 8. Okay, 3 bolts. This should just slide off. There you go. One side off. And then, like I say, I got these bolts. So one on this side, little plastic sleeve on here with my rack. One more on this side. Okay, so now that you got the 2 side bolts out, the seat should just slip up and kind of pull back. There you go, seat off. And then you can sort of see what we got working with here. One center bolt there, another 8 mil. Yeah, this is just the little tab that the seat slides into. And yeah, we'll start pulling that off now. And another plastic. Okay, now we're just left with the tank. Got a couple straps here for my tank bag. I'm hoping the tank bag fits with the bigger tank. Definitely going to be a little bit different with this. If you can see that little sharp edge there. We'll see. Okay, pull this bottom bolt out here. Okay, and then we got the 2 side bolts we'll pull out. Those are 10 mil, I believe. So these guys on the side, hopefully you can see that. Okay, one here. And you don't need to do the side ones, just the center one. And it should slip right out. I'll do this side as well. Another little trick you can do if you guys do have a tank bag is this. You can buy these things on Amazon. They're like brake bleeding little 90s, and I use them on here just because before I had my tank bag sitting on top of my fuel tank, so that kind of just keeps it from pinching your vent line. Pretty convenient. You can actually buy like a proper one that's meant for a dirt bike or, you know, motorcycle, but I think they're like $100 just for the one. So I just buy like a little set of like 10 of these little vacuum line or vacuum bleeder things, and yeah, works great. Okay, now that we got everything off there, I'll pull this tank off. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth. The stock tank isn't quite as tight as the aftermarket one, so just keep that in mind. They are kind of snug going in. So I usually just lift it off and set it off to the side a little bit, and then you can access your hoses and stuff underneath. Okay, so now I got it kind of sitting up out of the way here, and in the bottom here we've got a little fuel line. There's this green plastic piece. You kind of got to just unhook it from the one side and slide it back, and that'll be like the lock for your fuel line. You should be able to just pull it right off. But before we do that, there's an electrical connector in there. You can't actually remove it from the fuel pump on the bottom. You have to get at it from the side. So if you come around, easiest thing to do, at least for my bike, I don't know if it's the same for all KLXs, but I just pull this one. It's an 8mm bolt. Just kind of flip this thing off to the side, and you have a little electrical connector right under here that goes to your fuel pump. You can undo that. Once that's off, then you can pull your fuel line off and get the tank right off and out of the way. And then you can deal with draining it and swapping the pump and whatnot. So just pulling that thing off right now. 8mm bolt. Flip that out of the way a little bit. And just under here, you got your electrical connector. Might even be easy to take this one out so you can pull your plastics back a bit and access it. You can actually access it from this side, but it's really tight on mine. I can't quite get my fingers in there. Okay, connector is unhooked. Just pull that out. So there we got our connector, which runs down to the fuel pump. And I'll set you up here. Let's see if you can. Okay, we're gonna pull the fuel line off. Get some gloves. I don't really like to smell like fuel for 2 days after this. Okay. So, if you can see that, we'll pull the fuel line off. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth, and it should pop off. And you shouldn't really get any fuel leaking from it. I guess that's because the fuel pump's just shut off, which is great. So pull your electrical connector out, and that's it. You got your tank free. Pull your tank off. Okay, so there's the fuel line. Yeah, and this is just kind of where the tank slips in. Kind of sits on these little rubber pieces here. So we'll go ahead and empty out this tank and start swapping over our fuel pump and all that. This is the fun part. I kind of wanted to ride this thing until the tank was empty, but I'm impatient. Almost there. A little bit messy, but I'm glad fuel evaporates. There you go. Empty. Not as graceful as I would have hoped, but. Okay, so now we're gonna take off the fuel pump. It's just 5 10 mil bolts. Pop those bolts out. You can remove your hose here. Now originally when I did do this tank on the, swap the stock one to the 2.7 gallon tank, I did have a leak here, so make sure you put some sort of sealing compound or something on that. It is pipe thread, but yeah, put a little bit of like pipe sealant on there, or maybe some like fuel resistant Teflon tape. And I did change this line because the one that they supply is a little bit loose on the tank side, because I think this is a standard fitting and the other side is metric. So yeah, I did have, I'm not sure if it was leaking from there or from the brass fitting, but I swapped this line out for a piece of, I think it was 1/4 inch fuel line. So yeah, and then I haven't had any leaks since. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the new tank, because I imagine it's probably the same stuff that they supply you with. This one is kind of hard to get off. You can kind of slip some needle nose in there and wiggle it back and forth. Oh, the barbs are tight. Okay, there we go. Got that off, and then you pull that right out, and there's your fuel pump. So put that off to the side. Fuel pump, you got your big O-ring here, which we're gonna have to reuse for the new tank. Probably should have given this a spray down first to get all the dirt and grime off of it, but I think we're all right. So this is the thread sealant I used on the other tank. So I just put a little bit on the threads here. Don't need a ton. And then I just kind of thread it into the tank. You don't want this thing to be crazy tight. I'm sure there might be a torque spec, but pipe thread, you just kind of thread it in until it feels snug, and then maybe go a little bit past. You don't want to go crazy, just enough to seal it. So that's like not going too hard. Yeah, and then just a little past. That should be good. Okay, well, we're gonna put this O-ring in place. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than the hole. So sometimes you can get it to sit in there. I know some people like putting grease or something on it, but I think if you just fold the corners in, like kind of twist them so that it's not fighting against itself, you can get it to stay. You just kind of twist the edges so that they're not trying to pull out, and you can get it to stay in place. And then we'll go ahead and take this. And you'll be able to tell if you didn't get it in all the way. Like it's not going to go flush when you tighten it down. So this obviously went flush. Just leave those all a little loose so you can get everything in. Get them hand tight first. Don't want to strip these. I'm sure there's a torque spec for these, but if you feel more comfortable torquing it, if you're not very mechanically experienced, go ahead and do that. just do a star pattern and check, make sure everything is flush. You got to remember these are going into an encapsulated nut in plastic, so if you go too much, there's a chance of loosening up that little plastic piece. Okay, now flush all around. Take our little fuel line and kind of plop it on there. Okay. Okay. I'm just reusing the old stuff that I had for this, but it does come with a bag with all your hardware. Yeah, just use your discretion with these clamps. Get them snug, not crazy. Okay, we're gonna bolt this little bracket on the back of the pump here with these two little bolts. Not sure what size they are, but it is a 4mm Allen for those. Okay, so get that bracket on. Once again, 4mm Allen. Get that snug. They do also recommend putting a little bit of grease on like these rubber sides here as it slides in, which is probably a good call because it can be kind of stiff. Just some like silicone grease or whatever you got, really. Just basically do the reverse. We'll put the tank on and hook up our fuel line, I should say. So probably do the electrical connector first, like we did. Okay, so that's in. Okay. Okay, fuel line is hooked up. Electrical. Okay, so got the two side bolts tightened up. Just loose for now, like hand tight. And then we'll do the last one here and then start putting our fairings and everything back together, and that's pretty much it. It's not too bad. So that goes into that little spacer we put there. It kind of slots into that. And then yeah, we're pretty much there. Just got to put the seat on, put our fairings back on, and yeah, kind of get an idea of how big the tank is. Quite a bit bigger. Sticks up pretty far, but I think I should be able to still use my tank bag. It might sit a little bit further on the seat, but it should be good. Just getting these guys back on. Seat is all nice and snug there. Looks good. Bolt this guy back on. So did run into a bit of an issue here. It looks like, pull you off here. Looks like this piece when you go and mount it, you got quite a bit of a gap behind that, and if you were to suck it in with the bolt, it's going to be riding real hard against the gas tank there. So it does supply these little spacers. I think I'm going to have to use those. It doesn't really make it clear in the instructions. It tells you to use use only for the KLX300, but mine is not a KLX300. So I'm going to go ahead and use these. I'm going to use this flat washer and then the bolt that they provided and the spacer. feels a lot better. Still like a bit of a gap behind that, but it's not rubbing against the gas tank, at least right there. That seems to be a bit better. Definitely something IMS could improve with this tank is the fit of these shrouds. They're definitely not perfect. And then we'll just put the long stock bolt in the bottom of the shroud here. Tighten that all up. And do the same on the other side. And then we're done. Fill it with gas and take her for a rip. Make sure you got no leaks. But yeah, that is the IMS 3.8 liter tank. I think it looks pretty good. It's definitely a little bulkier than the original or the 2.7, but yeah, all in all, it looks pretty good. Looks really nice. Other than the shrouds don't fit very nice. So I don't know if it's just because mine are beat up. Mine aren't too bad though, honestly. I mean, they're a little bit beat up, but they shouldn't be bent or warped. I had to use the spacers that they provide down here just to get it off the tank. Otherwise it'd be crammed right into the side of the tank. I don't really like that. But yeah, it looks pretty good, I think. You can see how those could be tucked in quite a bit more. And sitting on it, see how it feels. Can definitely feel it is a little bit wider here, but I guess that's the trade-off you get for more fuel. It's not bad though. I think it's not going to bother me. Thanks for watching the install. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. It took me probably about an hour of work. It's not too bad. Anyone with a little bit of mechanical skill should be able to get this done without, too much troubles. So yeah, thanks for watching.